I first off want to say welcome to the show. Welcome to Powerline Podcast. I've been following you for a long time, like I just said, and I want to welcome you. I know your time is valuable, so thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this
Cool.
is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, you've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, I found something I like, and I just keep doing it, and it works out.
Well, dude, you're like a major inspiration in me starting this show as well, and really like one of the people that really pushed me into actually doing it. Like, I remember talking to my folks about it for probably a year prior to actually getting into it. And I just kept listening to you, listening to your shows. And I'm like, Dad, I got to do this. Like, this makes sense. It feels right. And since then, it's really been something I fell in love with as well. So,
I
yeah.
guess I'm glad you did it.
Cool. So I thought I'd introduce you to my audience, start with, because I don't know how many, you do this quite a bit. You talk to different audiences, I know, but this audience is quite specific. It's a niche group of power line workers for the most part, blue collar. I'm a power lineman by trade, lineman. And the majority of the audience is linemen or their extended families or friends or people in that network. So very blue collar. I started this podcast for two reasons. One was to share the stories of line workers. We travel to some pretty unique places, do some pretty cool work, and meet some interesting people along the way. So I wanted to gather those stories and share them in a modern way through podcasting. And then the second thing was to have guests like yourself on the show and could provide some value and some insight into other genres or other things that they may not have found in life yet. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Sounds like what you're doing could turn into a video series or like a TV show or something at some
Oh,
point.
dude, that's also been a dream. I've been bootstrapping this whole thing myself. So I've been wanting to launch a lot of this stuff onto YouTube as well, but it's just another thing in the workflow
Oh yeah,
that's as you
video is another level for
oh
sure.
man, like it's even just to take this recording and throw it on YouTube, it's just another step in the process that's difficult to get to. Yeah. So any other questions from your point about the audience or anything like that?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. I thought we'd start with a little bit of your history, maybe introduce yourself to the audience and give you some background, maybe where you grew up. Because I think from what I know about you, you could probably connect a little bit with the blue collar history through your father and growing up. So maybe a little bit
Yeah,
of your history.
yeah, for sure. Oh, you want to hear now?
Sure.
Yeah. So a bit about, yeah, I mean, I grew up I grew up in construction. My dad, he owned his own construction business, and we did a lot of home remodels. And, I remember being on the roof at 12 or 13 years old and roofing houses, humping the shingles onto the roof. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's in the middle of the summer, and it's just, the humidity is high, the sun is beating down on me. And uh, that obviously, like, I like to refer to like roofing because it's one of the more arduous tasks in construction. But
Yeah.
I did that and concrete and hung the sheetrock and all that stuff. And yeah, it was really awesome for me. It really built a lot of um, work ethic into me. And I joined the Navy when I was 19. I remember showing up and just thinking about, I was like, man, a lot of these guys are so soft. This is
Yeah.
like, oh, I've been doing the hard work for a long time. This is actually not that big of a deal. So yeah, I grew up in that. I grew up in, yeah, just pretty typical blue collar environment.
Cool. That's one of the things I wanted to get into was, okay, so I ask the majority of the line worker guests kind of how they found the trade and how they found line work. Maybe get into how you found your path as well.
Yeah.
Like you come out of that, you talked about military and the military background, and then how you got into fitness and that area.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, part of it was, I remember when I was growing up, I didn't really particularly like construction. You know, it created a lot of good work ethic for me, but I recognized that my mind was somewhere else. And my little brother, who is 2.5 years younger than me, was much more capable uh, in the job. And it actually, you know, there's a part of me that was like, oh man, I wish I could be more like my brother, because you know I wanted my dad to like me. You know, I was like, oh, you know, like if I can do the things my dad does, he'll like me more, he'll love me more. And my brother was just like, he was much more natural at picking things up. And looking back on it now, I recognize like my mind was just, I was occupied somewhere else when I was working, and that's why I didn't learn things as quickly and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I remember my dad recognizing that and going, you know, if you're not going to learn how to do this really well, you better study in school, because you know, you got to do something. Is basically what he was saying. I was like, all right, well, okay. And so um, I fell in love with working out when I was 15. I really just was all about it. Every free moment I had, I was either reading about it, or I was training, or I was, you know, trying to figure out what I should be eating, all that kind of stuff. I remember my dad coming to me and saying, you know, you're never going to get paid to work out. Like you should
Wow.
probably occupy yourself. You know, I'm 15, 16 years old, and he's looking out for my well-being, of course. And he's going, you're never going to get paid to work out. And I'm going, whatever, man. I'll get paid to work out. And I remember joining the Navy when I was 19, and I'm on the beach in San Diego, and I'm getting paid to work out. And I remember having that little conversation in my head. I go, "Show
Just
you,
laughing.
Dad."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "I'm doing it."
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is like the only the beginning part of the Navy was getting paid to work out after training, not getting paid to work out very much, and having to do all sorts of crazy shit, and you know, not sleeping. Like I worked in communications primarily, but you know, I worked 12-hour shifts regularly, where it was started at 7 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. And then I had extra duties on top of that if I was on a deployment or something like that. And so that wasn't all the fun and glory that I thought it was going to be. I was like, there's a lot of doing shit I don't like doing
Yeah.
before I can do the stuff I want to do. The ratio is off. There's not enough fun stuff happening here. So I decided to get out. And when I got out, I had no idea what I wanted to do. No idea. Because when I was 19, I thought, well, I'll just go in the military. Maybe I'll do 20 years. I had no plan B. There was no, you know, pretty typical of a 19-year-old, I think. And, but I got out when I was 24. And it was, I just went to school. And then I found that there's a degree program called Exercise and Sports Science. So I went to business school first, and I was just like, this business school is no good. I was a I almost failed accounting, but I withdrew from the class before I could fail. And I was like, oh, I thought I went to business school because I figured it can't hurt. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it can't hurt. And so during that first semester, I go, oh, exercise sports science. I can study that. Again, I remember talking to my parents. I'm like, oh, what are you studying? Exercise and sports science. And they're like, what are you going to do with that? Be a
Yeah.
PE teacher or something? I go, I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. All I know is that I'm going to keep following. Like what I found is I never, when I was younger, I didn't care about money that much. Actually, there's the amount of time I spent caring about how much money I made is pretty low. It's like, as long as I'm making enough to do the things I want to do, I've always been pretty happy. And so uh, I go into that program, and that ends up turning into I get introduced to weightlifting in that exercise sports science program. And for those in the audience that don't know, weightlifting is a sport where you throw weight over your head. And so the idea of like, it's like, oh, I'm going to compete in this sport while I go to class, you know, while I go to school. And I ended up opening a gym. I got introduced to CrossFit after weightlifting. And I imagine everybody knows what CrossFit is now. But back in 2006, nobody knew what it was. And I got introduced to that, and I go, oh, this is awesome. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to find the CrossFit gym in the area, and I'm going to go see if I can get a job. So I'm doing it, and I go, there's no CrossFit gyms in the entire state of Tennessee. I go, all right, well, I let a couple months go by, and I go, well, I guess me and my buddy bought a bunch of equipment. We're doing it in his garage, and he's like, let's just open a gym. So we did. We opened up. I think we were the first or second in Tennessee. I think some guys may have opened up like a month before us on the east side, but maybe not. I don't know. I like to think I was first. So I remember opening that up and going, oh wow, this is a dream come true. But then getting a year into it, I got burned out, and it's because I was treating it like a hobby, and I was dumping money into it, and I wasn't making any money. And when you're not making any money at something and it's taking up all your time, it doesn't really work out too well.
Sounds like the start of a podcast.
Just like the start of a podcast. So I go, well, shit, man, I better learn how to do some business. And one of the things that I was so opposed to studying business, I think part of it was, and I never thought about myself as a businessman, and I think that was because of what I witnessed with my dad, is he ran his own business and he struggled. It was, anything that wasn't the craft of making a house better or building a new house, it looked terrible for him. Doing the books didn't look like fun. Doing the marketing didn't look like fun. Doing the books and doing marketing, automatically I took that on as something I'm not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
Because my dad didn't like it. I saw it just completely stress him out. So I don't want to experience that stress. And so, but I did. I started learning business, downloaded some courses online, and started studying it. And sure enough, a year later, my business was making money, and I was able to have my passion and make okay money. I made okay money. A few $1,000s a month, enough to feed myself and put shelter over my head. And I did that for quite a few years, but I found that I was pretty entrepreneurial. I started, from 2007 to 2012, I had a couple different business ventures. I went into the equipment business and thought I could compete with Rogue at the time. And then I got a few months in, I go, this game is not my game. And so I cashed out and broke even. Like I put $50,000, I invested $50,000 through credit cards to start that business. Not the way to start a business, folks. I've never launched a business off credit ever since. That was a lesson. And I say it was a lesson, but it was like there were a lot safer and cheaper ways to test out whether I enjoyed that industry or not.
Yeah.
I didn't have to put so much
before you go all
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have to put so much on the line. So I learned how to test a market before without putting any money in, maybe just, a few days of sweat equity, a few days of work to even like see what this is like. And so I did that. I invented a couple things, which I never, took to patent or anything it's little workout things that I've seen come out since. And I'm totally okay with that having happened because, they probably made dozens of dollars off of their invention. But that leads me to 2012, where I started Barbell Shrugged podcast with a few friends. And that was inspired from a mixture of listening to Rob Wolf podcast, his podcast Paleo Solution, and Joe Rogan.
How did you get, one sec here, just because I'm a podcaster and I'm kind of geeking out that way, but how did you actually, because I started mine in March of 2019, and even just like a year and a half ago, you go and ask for podcast gear at Long and McQuaid or some and they're just like, what do you want to do? Like, it's still, how did you do this in 2012?
I took $1,000. I realized that was going to be the case because podcasts were so new back then. And I did a little bit of research and I go, okay, I know I want high quality audio. I know I want high quality video. And I went to Guitar Center and I go, look, this is what I want to do. And without even like, I think the guy that was helping us, like, I think he knew what podcast was, but I knew that the podcast I had been listening to at that point, most of them were really terrible audio. And, you know, it was,
Yeah.
the production value wasn't very high. I go, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it well. So I was like, I think I could do it well with $1,000. That's what I'm going to give myself. So I go to Guitar Center. I was like, look, I want to record up to 3 voices or 4 voices and really high quality audio. Like they're used to working with musicians and all this. And I want to record it. I'm going to make an MP3 and I'm going to upload this thing. And I go, okay, well, this is what you need. And so, you know, and because of that, when I looked around at other podcasters for years afterwards, our gear was superior.
Yeah.
But that was because like I knew what I wanted. I did enough research and I go, well, I want to record voices at a high quality and be able to put them in MP3 format. It's like, great. All right. Well, you need, you know, a MacBook and a GarageBand and you need a high quality mic and you need this thing called a preamp. I'm like, that's new equipment to me. And, so I went in and did that. And, yeah, we started that podcast, which ended up being #1 in iTunes for fitness and nutrition for years. We were #1 rated. So that we were always in like the top 10 when you see it, the way the algorithm works, but we had the most ratings of like, we had the most 5-star ratings out of every podcast in that genre. And I ran that podcast for a good year and a half before it really made any real money. And what I mean by real money is money that was beyond just keeping the thing going.
Yeah.
You know, like I figured 6 months in, we were like, okay, we figured out how to make about $1,000 a month. And we never broke a $3,000 month in a year and a half of podcasting. And I had 3 guys and it was 4 of us. It was 2 co-hosts.
It's a big commitment. Yeah.
It's a lot of guys putting work in, not getting paid for it. And we started to travel for it a bit and we were paying out of our own pocket. And because we did them all in person. And, you know, I went to a business and marketing conference in 2013. And I just sat down and learned for a week. And it was that week that really broke it down for me. I go, oh, I just need to do these things. I have this audience. This is how if I apply these principles to my podcast, then I think I could create recurring revenue. And then that's when I really, the benefit there is like, I'd already been running a gym for 5 years or 6 years. So I was learning business slowly, but doing business online was still pretty new too. So I applied, you know, everything I'd learned from the gym business, and I took these new principles I was learning about online business, and I got to the business where we were making more than the gym was making a month later. So the gym was making like $30,000 a month, somewhere in there. And then I started I started selling some training programs online. And then a couple months later, that's making over $30,000 a month. And I go, oh shit, I figured something out. And yeah, it's been doing a lot of business since then. I teach other people how to do business online, specifically coaches. And yeah, it's been really, really rewarding. It's been a fun ride.
The coaching thing is what I wanted to dive into because like I just took the Strong Coach, and again, thank you for creating that program. That's absolutely going to change my life. It already has, but I know there's good things to come through taking that course, and we'll talk about that after. But applying coaching to this industry, I wanted to get your take on that, because it's kind of, when I first reached out to the coaches from the Strong Coach, and Ben was the first one I talked to about, you know, like I had this, like I'd been listening to you for a few years, and I'd heard you progressively go from Barbell Shrug to the Bledsoe show and to the Strong Coach program, this program you're developing. And I'm like, shit, like these principles you're talking about, I would love to take these and apply them to my industry. And I didn't quite know if it would work. And I finally reached out to Ben and I'm like, hey, I got this idea. This is my tribe. This is my audience. This is the industry that I know. It's not directly fitness related, but do you think I could make them work? And he's like, absolutely. He's like, Mike markets more direct to the fitness industry because you don't want to market broad or else you never find your true audience. But
Yep.
he's like, obviously something we've said has led you to us. So connected with him and um, excited to talk to people in the industry about these things that they might not be considering every day. Like they might even think as woo woo or fluffy, like goal setting and vision casting and looking at their health holistically and how that can apply to their everyday job. And I see some really great potential in it, and I know it's going to be amazing. So I'd like to talk about a few of those things with you today.
Sure. Yeah. First off, I want to point out something that I don't
Sure.
share all the time, but the guy that I learned how to do online business from he was teaching, his business was dating. He was in the dating industry. And
Awesome.
so a lot of the concepts I took was from the dating industry to build out what I was doing in the fitness industry. So uh, my advice, and this is about learning anything, business or not, is find a teacher, find somebody who has a method, a teacher and a method, and dive really deep into that method. Dive in with that teacher and just do what they say. Just follow the steps, kind of like, the strong coach. Just you follow the steps and things will start coming together. And so, yeah, you came into you're coming over to strong coach. It's actually not that big of a step for what you're doing. The crossover is not that big for you because you're still talking about health and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. The for your audience, one of the things I really want to share is a couple things. You said it's a little woo and all this is like, okay, your health is when your health is no good, nothing else matters, right? So when you're sick, or just imagine, anyone who's listening to this right now is rewind back to the last time you were sick in bed. You had the flu, or hopefully not COVID, but you had something or you had an injury. What did you want more than anything else? More than anything else, you didn't want that car. You didn't care about that big nice house. You didn't care about how much money was in the bank. You cared about getting better,
Mhm.
right? And so everybody's health is going to fail at some point. At some point, you're either going to get sick or this or that, or towards the end of your life. How many people, like, you just look at the people in the industry that you work in, and you look at people who are 70, 80 years old, if they're making it that far.
Yeah.
And what's their life like? What's their lifestyle like?
That's what I wanted to interrupt you for a second just to explain that a little bit. It's very common in this trade to be broken down. Like you'll see people point out an old person can barely walk down the street and they'll laugh and that's a 25-year-old lineman. And the reason is the physicality of the job. Like you're working from very awkward positions,
Yeah,
body positions. You can imagine climbing a pole, your feet are planted in one spot, you're reaching behind your back, lifting weights, you're pulling from really weird directions. You work hours and shifts that are like right now you got Hurricane Laura hit the East Coast, and there's still guys working 45 days now in a row, 16, 18, 20 hours a day. I just did Washington and Oregon, 158 hours in 8 days. First shift was 30 hours. Like this is what we do. And it's the norm for linemen to work shifts like this and away from their home, away from their family, away from any sort of ability to figure out a routine. That's what they need help with as well, is
yeah,
like figuring out what would work on the road, how could they protect themselves while they're away, and then what they could do when they're back home to get in a better lifestyle so when they go
yeah.
on the road it's not like that. So yeah, it's a tough job.
Yeah, I imagine that what's going to motivate a lineman is, look, the better your health is, the more likely you're going to come home safe to your family,
100%.
and the longer you're going to be able to do your job, and the better you're going to be able to perform your job. These are all things that are going to happen when you're healthier. The other thing is, one of the things you were saying is you get in these weird positions, and the work is hard. So the idea of doing any training on top of that um, is kind of like, what
That's
are you
what they
talking
often
about?
they often say as well. They're like, "Oh, I don't need to go to the gym.
I'm
I
getting
work
my
out."
workout in. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so that's the mentality I grew up with.
Yeah.
So, and my dad, I started hitting the gym, and he's like, "Why don't you just like do some construction?" And part of it, he was partly right,
Yep.
and he was partly wrong, but not for the reason I thought he was wrong at the time. Um, and that is when you're doing one specific type of job all the time, you get what's called an overuse injury. You're repeating in the same pattern over and over again, and the human body needs variety to stay healthy. So I imagine that most linemen experience a lot of the same injuries. It's like,
Mhm.
I remember, if I talk to someone who's a framer, framing houses back before there were nail guns all over the place, everybody's elbows were jacked up, and
Elbows, shoulders, backs. Yeah.
yeah, elbow, shoulders, backs. There you go. And so it's because you're doing this repetitive motion. You need to unwind that. There's an unwinding. So, for someone who has a very physical job, a lot of times I don't care if they squat, deadlift, press. We need to do some corrective exercises, is what it's called. And they're not sexy. They're not always fun. They can be fun. They can be fun if done well, but most people are introduced to it and it's just like, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything, because especially people who are used to being very physical, they don't feel like they're working unless there's a lot of effort going into it. And what I mean by effort is like grind effort. It's like, no, this is a different type of effort, and the effort it requires is focus. And that is it's super high effort. You
Yeah.
got to slow down, you got to breathe deeply and smoothly, and you got to move gently.
Mhm.
For a lot of people, that requires a tremendous amount of effort. And so um, I really encourage people, the linemen, to find some practices that are going to keep them healthy. I travel a lot, so I sit in weird positions on airplanes a lot. I'm in the car a lot, um, and because I sit still in this one position for long periods of time, I have to do corrective exercises to stay healthy. And I like to lift weights, and I like to get heavy, and I like to do all that stuff too. But what I do is I build the corrective exercise first thing in the morning. I wake up, I drink a big glass of water, and then I do my corrective exercise. It takes me 15 minutes. You could do more than that if you really wanted to, but I say 15 minutes. And what'll happen is because you do that corrective exercise as soon as you wake up, you'll move better the rest of the day. And then you'll actually be less likely to be creating all those bad patterns that are going to lead to injury. So that's one thing I really want to put out there for the linemen to pay attention to.
So I saw you on a YouTube video with Salemi, talking about morning routines, and
Mm-hmm.
actually I really liked the morning routine that he worked through on that video. It sounded like it only took about 20 minutes. It involved same thing, a glass of water, I believe you did marching or something along
Yeah.
that line to get some movement going, and then some stretching or something like that. Is some
His,
insight
his,
into like a morning routine that they could do, like, because they're not going to have a lot of time, and like if you're working an 18-hour day, you're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning and starting your day again. Something they can do in 15 minutes just to start their day.
yeah. Yeah. You know, what are you drinking when you first wake up in the morning? Is it a big glass of water, or is it a cup of coffee?
It's probably straight to coffee. For
Straight to
most people,
coffee.
it's
Yeah.
out the hotel door and straight to coffee.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would do, so we're in hotels a lot too. Okay. So
Yeah.
um, I've lived the hotel life. I get it. I would get a green drink for one. So I would drink a big glass of water. I would do some movement and then get like a green drink. I like Elemental Wisdom. I also like Organifi, but something that's really nutrient dense, because I know how it is too. You get out there and you're eating whatever gets put in front of you. So my whole thing is I try to get all the micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals in a food form, which may be in like a green powder. It doesn't sound like food, but it's not a multivitamin pill. You
Yeah.
don't want to take that. You want the greens. So drink water, do some movement, drink some greens, and then get out the door. You're going to feel way better all day. Your energy is going to sustain better all day. Now for the movement, what I like to do is I like to look at every single joint and move it in a circular motion. So I stand on one foot and I move my ankle in a circular motion. I stand on the other foot, move the other ankle in a circular motion.
Yeah.
And then I do the same thing with my knees. And you can do it with your feet on the ground where you're moving your body to make circles with your knees, or you could lift your foot off the ground and then move your foot around your knee in a circular motion. Then you could stand up tall, make sure your feet are even, and move your hips in a circular motion. Put your hands right on your hips. Like, I mean, we've seen old dudes at the park doing it and we laugh at them, but guess what? They're doing it for a reason. They're wise. They know what they're doing. The older I get, the more I'm 30, I'll be 39 in a couple weeks. And the older I get, the more I'm like, dude, those old dudes in the park got this shit figured out.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like, oh, I'm paying attention.
I was coming down a pole when I was probably 21, 22, and I was missing every third step, just going as fast as I could. My knees were coming up towards, looked like logger sports, right? I was trying to come down fast and show off. And this old guy just looked up at me when I hit the ground and he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, if you make it as long as I have, you're not even going to have knees left. And I was like, whatever, old man. I went through 15 years of doing that, and my knees are not in good shape at all. Yeah. Old people. Listen to
old people. Who knew? Who knew? And there's all sorts of cultural reasons why our generation doesn't seem to pay much attention to the previous generation, and I get it. And you know what? I like to find one. I think it's like, if you can find one old dude that like, for me, it's Paul Check. I was like, all right.
Oh, he's a beauty.
I was like, that dude, he's 20 years older than me. He's 20 years older than me. So he's a great person for me to be looking at. Because he was here recent enough. He's like in my position recent enough where he knows where my head is at. But he's also far enough ahead that he's like, hey, dude, you should watch out for that shit. That's going to fuck you up. So I love Paul Check as someone to look up to, because I go, look, if he's 59 and this is what he's doing it for a reason. The guy's sharp, and he has the lifestyle I like. That's the big thing, is when you're looking for someone as a mentor, they don't even have to be someone you get on the phone with every week. They don't have to be that type of a mentor, but having someone you look up to, you go, look, that guy's got the life. Like Paul's got, a big house in the desert away from everybody, which I like. He starts his day off working out, which I like. And he spends most of his day reading and writing, and he works with some clients here. And I go, wow, that sounds a lot like my life, and I was like, and this dude is just a beast. So when he talks, I listen. So I think that for anybody, is like, what do you want your life to look like in 20 years? And try to identify that guy or girl who has that lifestyle. And you go, all right, tell me about it. Like, what's going on? And it helps if they have a podcast or something, because then you can just listen to them.
Totally. Absolutely. No, Paul Check is an absolute beast. I enjoy watching him. That actually is a good segue into, so if you find this lifestyle that you want to live, or something, maybe it's something you've thought about already. And since being in your program, I've asked, people that I've talked to recently about like, setting goals and whether they write their goals down. And it's been something I've been talking about more and more as I've gone through your program, talking about more and more on the podcast. Is this something that you're doing? Do you take your goals and write them down? And most of the time I get the same story as Mark England's shared, like most of, or the difference between goals and dreams is goals are written down. Most of the time they're like, myself, I was way more of a dreamer than a goal setter. had big dreams and big ambitions, but I never actually put pen to paper. And anytime that I did, and I've found that that thing I wrote down, it's happened, or I could see it happening in the not too
Yeah.
distant future. Right. So explain and talk a little bit about goal setting and journaling, because I've been trying to talk to the audience about this a little bit lately, and would love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah. So the real quick on goal setting specifically is there was a study done. Man, I should have this more top of mind, but you know what? People use the Googles. You can
Yeah.
use the Googles. They did a study where they looked at they surveyed people, and they basically I'll break it down, just the real short version, which is basically people who wrote down their goals. What was it? I think it was the people who wrote down their goals. It was like only 3% of the population or something like that wrote down their goals. And when they looked at, okay, out of the 3% that actually write their goals down, how many of them would be considered to be successful in their industry? And it was all of them. And they were more
Amazing.
successful than the other people in the industry who were not writing down goals. And the reason goal setting and writing it down is so important is because what you're doing is you're focusing the mind on that thing. So everybody could, just do an inventory for, 20 minutes. You could just sit in silence and then just watch all those thoughts that come into your head. And most of them we don't like. But all these thoughts come bombarding in. The mind is an asshole, right? So it's just like I think it's like so everything. If you're sitting quiet in silence for 5 minutes, you can just do it for 5 minutes and see what happens. That's happening, and those are your conscious thoughts. There's also subconscious thoughts running around in the background that you're not aware of, and these are directing the show. These are everything that you do is a thought before the action occurs, right? And so we if you want to be successful, you have to get present to that idea. You have to take that idea on as a reality, because that is reality.
Mm-hmm.
To say that it's not is living in an illusion. You're living in a dream world. It's a fantasy. I live in a fantasy if I don't think my thoughts are dictating my behavior, right? And as I talk about it more, it probably sounds really ridiculous that anyone would believe anything else, right? Before anything gets built for what you guys do, someone had to think of it first, right?
Yep. Yep.
It was a thought first, and then action was taken, and then the thing was made, and the thing was built or repaired. And so having that knowledge and going, okay, all right, well, there's about 70,000 thoughts. This is what they estimate. 70,000 thoughts that are running through someone's head per day. And most of them are assholes, right? And they're just running amok and jacking everything up. And so what I've been doing for years that has been extremely helpful is conditioning my own mind, because you can program it. If you watch a television show, they call it a program for a reason. You're being programmed. That story is getting programmed in your mind. You're now thinking about, when you're not watching the show, you're thinking about the characters, you're thinking about the storyline, you're thinking about, how many times are you out and, some movie comes out and the guys are joking around and they're quoting movies and TV shows.
Yeah. 100%.
Your mind got programmed, right? So be careful about what goes in.
Yeah.
And if you're not being conscious of what goes in your mind and you're not contributing to your own mind and what you want, here's the thing: if you don't control your mind, somebody else will, period. And so what you got to do, step one is, and you're not gonna take control of your entire mind in one afternoon of journaling. That would be amazing, but it's not going to happen. You've got to do it one thought at a time. And the phrase, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And so the mind is just vast. I've dug really deep into my mind, and it's a shit show in there, and I'm cleaning it up.
But we all are. We all are.
We all are. Yeah. And so for goals, let's at least put some things in that you want. Not what someone else wants. If you're just listening to the radio and you're just listening to television, and you're listening to anyone who's not you, parents, anything, your mind is being programmed to their needs, wants, and desires. And whose needs, wants, and desires get left in the back seat? People listening to this probably get this as soon as I say it is oh, I always put people before myself. Well, of course you do. You're not directing your own show. You're a pawn if you're not setting goals. If you're not intentionally inputting good data, then it's someone else's data is going in and someone else's data is coming out. So let's put your own data in. So how do we start doing that? We create goals. We simply write down what we want to accomplish by a specific date. This will be done by this date. All right, I'm going to program my mind. Boom, boom, boom. I may jack it up here and there and miss a day and all that, but try writing it down one time and see what happens. If you've never done it before, you're going to see something cool happen. And then you'll want to do it again and do it again. I write down my goals. I have 3 big goals that I just set new ones. I set new business goals. I have some personal goals which are on a different timeline, but my business goals, I'm supposed to accomplish these 3 things by September 16th, 2021. And not only am I supposed to, but I will. Those things in my mind have already been accomplished, and every time there's something comes up in my life that I know is going to contribute to moving the needle in that direction, I do it because I'm thinking about it. Yeah. And so I write these goals down every single day. I wake up.
And it's like, sorry to interrupt, but you say 70,000 thoughts in was a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you choose to pluck 3 things out and put them on paper. Like, that's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, those are the 3 most important things to you. You just pulled out of 70,000 thoughts.
Yeah.
You pulled 3 out and stuck them down. And then, like you said, watch how your energy and everything you do, think, every decision that you make throughout every day of your life is going to be focused towards those.
Yep.
Or have a better focus towards those.
And you have those 70,000 thoughts, but let's repeat some. Get those 3 and let's repeat those. Repeat them. Because everything else is a distraction. I don't know about everything else, but most everything else is a distraction. 69,000 of those thoughts are distraction. So,
and like you said, make sure they're yours. Like, make sure they're yours.
And here's the thing about goal setting is the first time you do it, you're going to set somebody else's goals because guess what? You've been programmed. That's okay. I was programmed too. Like, I still get programmed. I watch something, I hear something, and I hear the words come out of my mouth. I'm like, those aren't even my words. I heard some guy on the radio say those words. I got to watch what I listen to. Holy shit. Take those 3 goals and just repeat them. Every morning I write them down. Every morning I say them out loud. Now that gets really weird. You start standing in the mirror and talking to yourself. Look, if that feels a little too out there for you, good. That's fine. Don't do it. Just write it down. Just sit in silence and write it down. But maybe one day you go, all right. I'm going to try. It's weird. Nobody's looking. I got a hotel room to myself. I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to say it to myself. Like, okay, give that a shot. It'll feel weird. First time I did it, felt like a weirdo. I now do it with people in the house. I'm at a retreat. There's people downstairs. I'm in the bathroom. I'm saying my goals by September 16, 2021. And then I say it in different voices and I'm like an actor, right? I'm performing it. And so the more I can get my body involved with it, it's even more powerful then. Because then I'm like, because here's the thing is, to have the thought is one thing, but to start getting my body involved, the thing that takes action, I start getting that involved with the thought, and maybe I put on a little bit of music. It's like, now I'm in training. So we entertain to entrain, right? And if you entrainment is what's used by hypnotists. You entrain an audience, you entrain a crowd, you can pull them in, and then you can get them thinking what you want them to think, right? So entertainment is entrainment. So what I like to do is pull in some music without lyrics because I don't want that program. I'm going to create my own program. Get
Yeah.
some music, get some movement. We're just going to get super weird here.
Yeah.
Super weird. And then say, anyways, uh,
Love it.
hopefully I didn't scare everybody off. But
No, not
here's
at
the thing
all.
is, you don't have to do all that stuff. Look, you don't have to sing and dance the thing like I do. You can
Mhm.
just write it down in silence, over breakfast.
What would you say for time? Would you go, I could, like, you trained us like 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, whatever, and then break it down from there? Like, what would you say, like, first time somebody's going to go practice this, set a distant goal, a current goal, and then
You
get
know,
kind of granular with it, or what?
one of our coaches did something brilliant. Ben,
Mhm.
Ben,
Yeah.
he made an Instagram story recently that I go, oh man, this dude just taught me something. I love it. I love it. Like part of me is like, it was, so, when it's something is so good and so true that you're shocked that you didn't think of it before. It was one of those things like, oh, it's so fucking obvious. He, uh, he was like, make a goal for today. Just something really simple. Like like
Just
like I'm gonna practice the guitar for 5 minutes today. It's
yeah.
like, do you have 5 minutes to practice guitar? Yeah. And I really like behavior goals, not outcome based goals. Like losing 20 pounds, terrible goal. You know, eating no sugar for 6 days a week. That's a much better goal. That's something you can actually control. It's a
Yeah.
behavior. Um, so I really like setting one goal for today and then maybe
Mhm.
set a goal, after you get good at setting a 5 minute goal once a day, like set a goal for 2 days from now.
Mhm.
Um, and I want to caution people, if you only do short term goals, it's a good way of practicing the skill of goal setting and following through.
Mhm.
Uh, but there was this quote from a mentor of mine. He said, ordinary people think in years, extraordinary people think in decades.
Roger.
And this guy is he's a 70-year-old billionaire.
Mhm.
All right. The guy, and he's health. Dude, check this out. This guy's 70. I say he's a billionaire. I think he's approaching that status. He's like in the upper 100 millions,
Close
whatever.
enough.
Closer to like what's he have? He's got a Rolls Royce. He's got this. He's got all the cars, like all the cars. He lives in all over the world. He's got homes all over. Cool dude. 70. He's out there. He's out there in a lot of ways. He's got a 35-year-old hot girlfriend. Uh, dude wakes up at 4 a.m. and kicks my ass on the trail. Uh, like this is who these are the people. Like again,
Yeah.
good mentor, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want his life necessarily. Like I don't take all of his advice because I don't want all of his life. There's some everything I mentioned was really cool, but
Yeah.
not necessarily like when I see his whole lifestyle, I'm like, it's not really my jam. Um, but he said that to me, and I go, this guy's been around for 7 decades, and he's one of the most successful people on the whole planet at a few things, not just at making money. Like he's really good at some other things too. I go, all right, he knows what he's talking about. And I started thinking out, oh, what do I want? I started thinking out 4 decades is where I'm at now. And actually, I started thinking generationally. You look at some cultures; they've done a really good job of training their society to think generationally. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
That's a neat thought. Almost start thinking legacy too. Like, you
absolutely,
know? Hmm.
absolutely. Um, I think it takes someone to get to a certain age before the legacy
Sure.
conversation really kicks in. I remember it being introduced to it, 10 years ago when I was 28. And I'm like, oh yeah, legacy. I'm like, you don't know what legacy means. You're too young. You don't know. Like let's just try to like set a 5-year goal if you're 28. Like, but you do want to work up to that. You want to work up to like a 5-year or 10-year or whatever,
Mhm.
because like I said, if you're not making the plan, you're gonna fall into somebody else's plan,
Gotcha.
and it's just and all you have to do to find out what's gonna happen to you if you don't make a plan, is find someone who's that far ahead of you. Find someone who's 10 years ahead of you, for instance. You need to set a 10-year goal. Look at some people who are doing the exact same thing that you were doing 10 years, that you're doing now 10 years ago, and look at their life now. And if that's cool,
Fantastic.
fucking do it.
Yeah.
But if you want something different, set some goals.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Work, because I know we're getting close on time here, but work a little bit of language into this now as well, because I know you've done, done multiple programs and things on you're big on language. Work language into this as well briefly.
Yeah, when setting goals, I like to do a buy when. So a lot of my goals right now revolve around September 16th, 2021. I have some 1-year goals. So I go by September 16th, 2021. And I use the word buy because if it happens beforehand, that's cool. A lot of people, they go on. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And here's the thing, you know this because you've been through the program, is one of the sayings that we have inside the Strong Coach is that we pride ourselves on is when 10-year goals become 1-year goals. Like, oh, I'm going to accomplish this in 10 years. And we're in the back going, haha, they don't know.
6 months down the road.
Yeah, it's like, what?
By the end of the course.
Yeah. 90 days later, it's like, maybe you're probably not going to hit all your 10-year goals, but you're going to hit some of them. And you don't, until you write them down and start focusing on them, you don't realize how close they are. So I like a buy when. And then I state the goal. You know, it's so long since I've done any goal setting with people. Like I have like automatic. I forget what people tend to do, but I like to be specific about what was accomplished by that date. And then you might even be able to help me better with this, Ryan. But I pull out words like will, like I will, or I will have done this. It's like, no, I like to state it in the past tense.
Yeah.
So for me, one of my goals is by September 16th, 2021, 600 coaches purchase Build, which is one of my programs. And so,
it's removing that soft talk, which was the other part of the language piece that I wanted you to touch on, was because it works into all of these things that we've already talked about, and just it's conversations with yourself and conversations with others and how important they are to remove certain, it's programming too, right? Like, and it's important to get that structured and remove certain words, and it can change the whole course of the direction of your life. Just removing words.
Yeah, remove words, you know.
Or adding others.
Probably, kinda, maybe. Yeah. Remove those words, make it more solid. You'll feel it in your body when you change and you say it out loud. You go like, oh, that actually feels way more solid. We want solid talk. If you are in the habit of talking to people and it doesn't seem like people are listening to you, or you put in a request, but they don't really do it. You go to your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend and you're like, yeah, could you maybe take out the trash or whatever? If you switch that with, could you please take out the trash before bed tonight? These are two different sounds. Or here's one for the single guys. You walk up to the girl at the bar and you're going to ask her out. You say, hey, Friday, I have off Friday night. Could you maybe possibly go on a date with me? Every woman that's listening to this is laughing. Like, I'm not going out with that guy. What a loser. Right? It's because, and the guy's not a loser, but you're coming off soft. And here's the people who I want to surround myself with, they appreciate people who are solid. They don't want soft. I want direct communication. I don't want any confusion. I like to reduce confusion, and soft talk is confusing. So, or you could be the guy that walks up to the girl at the bar to ask her out and go, hi, do you have plans Friday night? Because if not, I would love to take you out.
Big difference. Yeah.
Huge difference. And the difference really is solid talk versus soft talk. Mm-hmm. And one of those, there were key words in there that were all the same. Friday night. I, I, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to take you out.
So apply the same things to your goals, right? Like apply the same
Yep.
things to your goals, apply the same things to the conversations in your head, conversations with others. Apply those same principles, remove the soft talk, add more direct words to make this shit happen. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So remove soft talk. A lot of times people write down goals about what they want to avoid or what they don't want. Make sure it's something you do want, you know. I like to use relationship analogies because they tend to hit home with people. So I remember working with a client once who had set the goal that we were talking about goal setting on the phone, but he's like, I was trying to get him to set a goal around his relationship. And well, he wanted to. He brought it to me, but then when we started talking about it, he started getting really uncomfortable, which made perfect sense after talking to him. And he says, "I just don't want her to break up with me, or it might have been cheat on me. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all the same. I just don't want her to leave me, or I think that might have been it. Doesn't matter." He was focused on what he did not want to happen in a relationship. I go, okay. So what do you want to happen? And he goes, oh,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
he didn't have anything to say. And the reason he didn't have anything to say is because he didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have thoughts about that because he had directed so much of his mental capacity to what he didn't want. How could he ever create anything other than what he didn't want if he was consumed by it?
Yeah.
Right. And so I go, what do you want? Well, what's the opposite of, let's close your eyes and imagine this relationship where she does not leave you. What does that mean? That she stays with me. I'm like, oh, great start. One of my relationship goals is that we stay together. I'm like, awesome. All right.
Now you have something to work with.
Oh yeah. I was like, all right. Well, now that you're together, what do you want that relationship to be like? What's it going to be like in the morning? It's like, oh, it's going to be like really loving. It's like, great.
Boom.
So I now have a relationship goal that I have my relationship is loving. Oh, right on. And so people a lot of times have spent so little time, they're so focused on survival, which is the avoidance of destruction, that they don't spend time creating. Yeah. And so one other thing I would mention, so make a goal about what you do want, keep solid talking, and leave other people out of it. And that is, so I have a girlfriend. I'm not going to set relationship goals that involve her in it. Like I set my relationship goals for what I want to have in my relationship. Mm-hmm. And because here's the thing, I can't control her behavior.
Gotcha.
I can't control her thoughts. I can't control anything about her. Right. Mm-hmm. I can influence her. I can communicate with her, and I can tell her my desires, and she can set. And this is where setting goals as a couple can be really powerful. It's like, okay, well, what do we both want out of this relationship? Yeah. And so that can be very, very powerful, is when you're aligning your goals together. But I've just witnessed too many times people wanting to set goals where I'm going to marry that specific girl by this date. I'm like, what's going on?
You can apply that to anything, really. Like as soon as you're trying to control another person or situation, that's almost a control thing,
Absolutely, it's definitely a control.
It's a control thing. Like you're wanting to control something that is totally out of your control.
Or I've set up professional goals with people before. Yeah. And they, I want to have this position in this company and I go, well, for what reason? And we find out, and I go, maybe it's not with that company. And they're like, oh, I never thought about being with a different company. And I go, well, what if it's going to take
or
you
even
10
in
years?
that field?
Yeah. What if it's going to take you 10 years to do it with this company, but it'll take you 2 years with this company? Mm-hmm. If we just open up a new door in your mind of possibility. Yeah. I could double my income by switching over here. It's like, okay. And you may like it better over there. You don't know. So leave other people out of it. Make them your goals. Mm-hmm. Reduce the soft talk. annihilate the soft talk. Focus on what you do want. And then I like to add a because afterwards. It's like, why do you reach this goal? So it could be like that deeper why. It could be like, because, I want to live a really satisfying life, and that's a very vague thing. Don't be vague, but like, let's see if I can think of something that's really, really specific. You could some of my stuff is around leadership. It's like, because I'm a leader in my community. It's a lot of times because one of my because right now. So I mentioned that goal before. By September 16th, 2021, 600 coaches purchased Build, because we impact one new coach every day.
Nice.
So there's a condition there that I know what I have to do every day in my life. Every day in my life, I wake up, I write this down. My because is because I impact one new coach every day.
Mm-hmm.
What's that going to cause me to do? I'm out there looking for coaches to help. And because I just had a team meeting this morning. At 7 people on the call, and we all read those goals aloud. Aloud.
Amazing.
Which means that, and they're all writing them down every morning. So I've got 7 people. What are they doing? They're helping one new coach every day.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
so we're impacting one new coach every day. So we have 7 people impacting 7 coaches every day for 365 days.
Yeah.
We're going to impact over 2,000 coaches over the next year, which means 600 of them will buy our program. And then they'll join our 90-day, and then those coaches will turn around, and what are they going to do? They're going to make the impact you're making right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome to see what you're doing and how it can affect multiple genres, multiple industries. Just when you set the goal, and it probably was hard for you to think, maybe it wasn't, because you think like this, but like, think outside of the industry that you're in, and that you'll have these people from all genres coming to you doing this program that you originally set out focused on, like, whatever fitness industry, coaching.
Yeah. I intended it. I actually didn't have a lot of intentions when I started it, but I just saw a need.
Yeah.
I saw a need, and I saw a pain. And I go, okay, we can solve this pain with this product and this coaching. I can help these people. I think that'll be fun and very satisfying. And then after a few months of doing it, I go, all right, let's actually build a business around this. And let's make a bigger impact. Now I'm thinking globally. So
it's really awesome, because it's the way I'm thinking about this industry is like, coaching, this industry needs to be treated different. We need to think about coaching differently and think it industry related. Like, we're tradesmen. It's actually a trade ticket that you get. And in trades, you have apprenticeships, and it's, student and master. And we're losing a bit of that in the trade. It's the master portion of the journeyman status. The journeyman's getting bogged down with all kinds of stuff, safety related, paperwork, the stresses of big business and doing. So you're losing that student master relationship. And
it's being systemized.
That's what coaching is. It needs to be brought in a little differently, or just, we need to think about it that way. And we need to just take a step back and look at it and remember the roots, we're human. We're human. And this is how we learn,
relationships. Yeah. We learn from relationships.
Yeah.
That master student relationship you're talking about is as old as time.
Yeah.
And for people to think they can automate it or fill that relationship with paperwork, it won't work. That's the road to failure for sure. There needs to be, and that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is how do we increase that communication and real communication? Not like, how's the weather today? Like, no, what's really going on? How can I help you today? Like, if you're the one helping the student, is like, really finding out what's going to make a difference for that person to get them to the next level. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Not like you taught them some technical detail. Like, actually, you got to know what's going on for that person to be able to help them. Maybe they don't need to learn something new today.
Yeah.
Maybe their girlfriend broke up with them last night and they need a break.
Yeah.
They just need to breathe and like give them some like monotonous work to take their mind off of it. And another day, they're ready to go and ready to learn some new shit. Boom.
Yeah.
Like no machine's gonna figure that out.
Yeah. What's just in respect to time, I want to give you a chance to talk about your programs and what you got going on with Strong Coach and all your other stuff that you got going on.
Yeah.
But what's something that you're teaching? Like you mentioned leadership, and leadership's a big portion of all of this as well. What's something you're teaching your leaders currently that you could share with us that might relate?
What am I teaching my leaders? You know, one of the things we've been when I look at my company's made up of a bunch of leaders, is we share our visions with each other, and every leader should be sharing their vision, and that is because a leader is, you know, by one definition, you're a leader if people follow you, right? But they're following you because they think that you can take them to somewhere better than where they are right now. And so many leaders get confused because they never share their vision, but people believe in them, so they're following them. But then the relationship between the leader and the follower gets a little bumpy because at some point the follower starts asking, well, where are we going? And then the leader's like, well, I never really cared about telling you where we were going because I don't know where I'm going. And so that's an example of poor leadership. And if we can create a vision and share the vision well, if we can communicate it clearly, remove that soft talk about what we do want, where we are going, and keeping the focus on what we are doing, then they'll be very clear about what's going on and where we're going, and things run very smoothly when everyone knows where we're going and why we're going there. You know,
I've heard it put recently, like some leaders, they say we got a communication problem. I need to communicate with people better. Well, that is communicating, is sharing that vision and making sure that vision is shared both up and down the chain. And it can be something that's done from whatever level of leadership too. You don't have to be the CEO of the company. You can
right?
be a foreman on the job.
Absolutely.
Sharing that vision and communicating it to your crew, even of what the next steps are the next day. Like, what are we up to the next day? What do you got to watch out for, and where are we headed? And it's just that little bit of it doesn't even have to be elaborate. It can just be a little bit
simple.
You don't have to give big details even, you just simple little, hey, this is where we're going. This is our direction. Let's go.
I'm a big fan of staying out of the details and letting the people who are contributing, they do the details. Yeah. This is what's great about being a leader, is you don't have to think about how it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Your people, they got that shit, and they're excited to do that. Last week I had my team retreat, and I had my company there, and I shared a vision where I announced that we're starting a trust where the staff from the company can contribute, and we're buying farmland for regenerative farming in Colorado. And they're just like, whoa, that's so awesome. So I laid out, like, this is what we're going to do: regenerative farming practices. We're going to grow these types of things. If you want to build a home on the property, you're welcome to. So cool. All this stuff. And I go, and I want to know, and part of the vision that I laid out was because I had been listening to them over the last month, and I go, oh, you know what? Jared was talking to me about this. We're gonna make sure it's that. Ben was sharing with me is this. So I laid out the vision, which was not super detailed. It was like, we're gonna have all these items, this stuff will exist. And then I was like, I want to know your like, what do you want? And then Ben one of our coaches, he goes, south-facing mountains. And I go, all right, I guess I'm looking for a property with south-facing mountains now, And it's like,
That's awesome.
thing
It's
is
getting
like,
detailed.
yeah, it's like, and the next morning there was more, people had more ideas, and they changed the document and made it, more of what they wanted it to be. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm so glad you put that down there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and the thing about it is when people get to contribute to the vision, you lay out the big picture vision, and other people get to contribute inside of that. They're bought into it because now they want it. They're like, oh, this is my vision. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't just crack the whip. It's cliche, but you can't just like, this is the direction we're going, go. It's gotta be them. It's gotta be them contributing to it, or else you'll never get the buy-in. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. You'll get work out of people. You'll get the type of people who will who will respond to that they produce lower quality work, and they live in fear. They're only there for the paycheck. They don't love their job. So that's not the people I want working with me. I want the people I work with. We love what we do.
Yeah. 100%. How are you looking for time, Mike?
I'm good. I got 10 minutes.
Okay. One other quick question then. Since you brought in the paycheck portion, is something I wanted to get your perspective on relationship to money. This was it just came to me. Linemen, let's say our relationship to money is it's very fragile, I guess, or lack of a better word. I can't think of it right now, but we don't have the best relationship with money. Maybe briefly talk about how a person's relationship with money is curated. Like, at what point in their life do they get a programming? You talk about programming on relationship with money, because it's very like a line worker. Your wage is set for you usually. It's there. You can't go in or out of it. You're set within certain guidelines. You have goalposts, and so you just chase that. You chase the work, which often leads people to being broken, because I got to get the next job because it's going to equal this, and I got to get to retirement. It's going to equal this. And it's that constant chase for dollars. Maybe give them a different perspective, if you could, just a different way to look at it.
Well, you said the words relationship to money, right? It's a relationship. Do you feel like a slave to money? Or is money just a tool to get things done? Most people are a slave to it. Are you Canadian?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Well, on the U.S. dollar, it's got the triangle with the eye, the all-seeing eye, and which is actually a really ancient symbol for alignment, intuition. Third eye, the one eye, the thing that is representative of where your attention is at. So they put the symbol of attention on the dollar bill, and then they put "In God We Trust" on the dollar bill. There's no mystery to me why so many people are focused on that being the most important thing. And the way I think about it is what you spend most of your time thinking, where the majority of your attention is going, is what you worship. A lot of people are like, oh, I worship this, or I'm in this religion, or this or that. It's like, no, wherever you spent most of your attention is what you worship. And so in the United States, primarily it's money. We worship money, and then which means that we think that money is like above us, right? And right now we're in an election cycle, so people are now worshiping government. So money gets a little bit of a break while we squabble over who's going to create the rules for the rest of us. But I want you to follow the types of things I want you to do. You can't do what you want. And by the way, I want to take your tax dollars, and we're going to go start a war over here. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Nobody wants that shit.
I can't wait for November to be over.
It's a mess. I'm enjoying. I'm very entertained. The beauties of being apolitical. So The but we have a relationship to money. Does it own you? Do you own it? And it's such a huge topic. And you were starting to get to it. And a great exercise that people can do is, oh my God, we're going to do the thing. We're going to journal. We're going to write it down. Is really pull out a piece of paper and write down what your parents told you about money. Like, I remember my dad saying money doesn't grow on trees. Right? What he was getting at is that money is scarce.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had to, that's a subconscious program running all the time, or was. And I had to become aware of it. And then I had to make a decision about, am I going to live my life by that? Another one is time is money. Time is not money. Time is time, and money is money. Time is not money. That's a lie. It's a really great lie to tell slaves.
Yeah, people that work for a wage, for an hour, by the hour, for
Yeah,
$1.
yeah. Like it's really really good. And then of course, just a fun one is, pay attention. What are you paying attention to? Like,
Yeah.
that one gets weird. You're like that. People are like, all right, look, attention is your most valuable resource. It is the currency. The dollar bill, or whatever you guys have in Canada, it's fake.
The
It's not
loony.
real. What's it called?
It's a loony.
It's a loony.
A $1 coin.
A loony.
There's a $2 coin called a toonie.
A toonie. A loony and a toonie. At least the Canadians are more upfront about it.
It's so goofy.
I love it. Oh my God, I've been to Canada, but credit
You're
cards.
welcome to come back. I'll give you a loony and a toonie.
Oh wait, they won't let me in right now.
I know. What the heck?
Yeah. You guys are like just so much more superior than us. That's the problem.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, yeah, the relation. Look, write down what you can remember that your mom taught you about money.
Yeah.
Write down what you remember your dad taught you about money. And then just really look at your life and how do you treat it?
Yeah.
And is it something you're scared of? How does it feel when you check your bank account? If you're anything like I used to be, I used to dread checking my bank account. I was like, shit, I know I spent some money. I don't know how much is in there. I didn't want to see it. I lived in denial. I wanted to live in an illusion. But I mean, step one is getting really intimate with it. Like, oh, I can check my bank account every day. I don't like how it makes me feel. But after a while, I don't know, I got familiar with that feeling. Whew, scary. But yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show on money.
Totally. No, that's great. I like the advice. It really does. If people listen to it and they want to play into what we said in the rest of the episode, it'll get you to check in with the rest of the stuff. You can check it against your goals, against what you want in life, like where you're going. Like, do I need to be working so much, so hard, for what, like maybe it is, maybe that's part of your goals. Maybe it isn't, but just
you gotta
put it all in check, right? Because it's all part of a holistic view of your life, right?
Without goal, I can't even imagine thinking about money in a healthy way without goals. Yeah. Like, if I don't have any goals, I should make as little as possible. Yeah. Is really the truth. Like, what are you working so hard for?
Well, so many people do it, and there is just it's literally just keep going. I got to do that next big job. because it's going to get me this. I'm going to get the double time or like whatever it is. But it's just like, for what? Like,
but that person doesn't have a goal. Like,
yeah.
Dude, I mean, you could move down to Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico border's open, by the way. You can go down to Mexico, and I mean, I could fish and eat some fruit and live in a hut and enjoy most of my days just fine without working too hard. but I have goals, so I got shit to do.
So talk about your goals a little bit, talk about Strong Coach, talk about what you got going on, and tell people where they can connect with you if something's intrigued them.
Yeah. So my big thing right now is the Strong Coach. That's where we train coaches. We train coaches on how to be successful. We recognize that people are distracted. You know, people have really unhealthy fitness goals because they're paying attention to what's happening on TV and Instagram and all this shit. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, is we really want to help coaches reach people and help them live a healthy, happy lifestyle. So we train coaches to do that. We help them build their businesses. That's one track that I have going on. I also have something called Training Camp for the Soul. That's the retreat I'm at right now, and where it's emotional resilience training. So this is the highest level leadership training that I've ever come across. And what we're teaching people is how to be with anything. Nothing is too big, right? And so what we do is we got to like get people past where they are now, of like what's holding them back in their life right now. And then once we clear out that shit, we take them to, well, what's next? Can you play a bigger game? Do you want to play a bigger game? And if so, what's it going to take to get there? And so that's Training Camp for the Soul. That's my other big program. And then I'm going to be launching a membership site soon, like a low dollar, $33 a month membership site for the Bledsoe show, which is my podcast. And yeah, we're going to do some fun stuff in there. I'm going to do things that are too hot for Instagram. And no, I'm not going to do nudes. But I know y'all want them.
For you
but
only.
Onlyfans.com.
Yeah,
No, no, I'm going to, yeah, we're going to launch a membership site next month. Sorry. And, there's going to be some really cool stuff in there. A lot of really simple movement stuff, morning routine stuff. We're going to have a book club in there. We're going to talk about, read this book this month. We're going to do a Zoom call and we're going to discuss it. Like hop on live. Let's have a conversation. So, doing a lot of cool stuff, having a lot of fun. That's all I got.
Awesome. Cool, buddy. Instagram handle.
Mike_Bledsoe.
Nice.
That's
cool. Well, I appreciate the shit out of you. Like I said, I could talk highly of you all day long. So thanks for joining me on the show, buddy.
I appreciate it.